Last video of the night. I figured I'd get at least a little bit into this. There are a lot of other people out there who can explain all this nonsense a lot better than I. And I say it's nonsense because ultimately the issue is that there are people, secret societies, that exist in all walks of life that ultimately pull the strings on much of what you see and you hear, and most everyone else is compartmentalized. Now in this I just say compartmentalized, but essentially that's how they work their strength. As long as you got your position, your life, and your goals that you have to focus on, none of this will ever be in your attention. And it'll be so easy for you to not put all this together because there's so damn much. That's how they even get themselves in control of things. Because this is all they really need. Secret societies, the CIA, and the military-industrial complex. Through that, they can fuck with banks, and through the banks and lobby groups and whatnot, they can fuck with everything else down below. Because everything here is chained to, guess what? The government. So, the government is just a system. That's all that is. Politics, left and right, it's still part of the same damn thing. So I figured at least I'd go at least a little bit into it from a very shortened kind of perspective, trying to just narrow things down so people can get a grasp of how this could be so possible. Now when it comes to money, that's where all these green little arrows are. And I should just probably put a lay down here. Every green arrow has to deal with money. When it comes to this right here, this is like a hillside, alright? The whole point is, money is flexible. It's a piece of crap because it's just ink on paper, but at the very least, it's something that people now have to contest with each other for. Whether it's giving up the money or getting the money. The point is, it goes somewhere. Then there's a solidified system. That's what's in black. It's the oil. That solidified system always will grease the wheels. It's always going to be there. So it will always exist to suppress everything down below and squeeze them for all the money that they have. So it's a big weight. And that's why they're all part of the same fucking thing. And then there's the banks. The banks are kind of like that little last tiny little pyramid thing on top because they're there. They're necessary. Pardon me. I have a little bit of a speaking issue. They're necessary to keeping the money flow as well as having a place for the wealthy, the CIA, the secret societies, the military-industrial complex, all these different organizations to which truly run the show and have a more grasp on what is and what is not true. So banks are kind of like that one middle ground that exists within the eye. Of course, almost nobody is going to be, knowing what their job is while you're in a bank. Till the higher you go, and the higher, and the higher, and the higher, and eventually you realize that the people at the very top are generally people you've seen this. People who might have been former those, or these. Or even some of these, if they did a good enough job being a good enough lackey. Point being, that is why that is there. Now, starting with money. I figured I'd start on the right side of the spectrum because I've noticed that there's so many people on the right side when it comes to conservatives who, oddly enough, give away money like it's nothing. It's almost socially acceptable that even though that your thoughts is to save money, to conserve, to be a conservative, you're generally going to be most likely the one giving money away. Ironic, no? So, I figured I'd give a quick little rundown on how these things are pretty organized in that sense. So, starting from the right, you have the NRA, they go into the right, sure, even though the NRA, they're like the big boogeyman for the left. In all actuality, they're just a part of the problem. They want background checks, they want restriction of rights too. It's just in their mind, hey, they're getting paid, so they're there. Churches. Church. You know how many freaking priests now that I've met where they have to tell me that there are a system in other churches they have to go to, including the Catholic Church, is the only way that they can actually get recognized for who they are. So there are certain churches that exist that cannot exist without money and getting it from everyone else beneath them. So from people like Joe Schmo. Joe Schmo has to come to church, he gets guilt-tripped, and he's like, man, I only got a little bit of money in my pocket. Well, so does 100 other people. So they all pass up their money to the fucking guy at the front. Is every church corrupt? No. Is there a lot of them? Yeah. Because if they were really a good church, they'd probably condemn every fucking war that we've been in. But most of them don't care. Now, then you have your youth groups. Youth groups, I've noticed, that's just a wide array. It just means that people that will put their kids into something, they'll pay for it. They get these special badges, like scouts, scout that, fucking, whatever the freaking name's on. I'm brain farting here, alright? Point is, it's a form of indoctrination. They make money, they bring the money up to other freaking organizations, and so on and so forth up the line. For example, out where I live in Kansas, the main guys who run the show for youth groups are Mormons. And Mormons are pretty organized. So, there's that check. So all this kind of plays into each other. Now, I put the military and the police down here. And I only say that because that's kind of that interchanging kind of side. They kind of go into all these things. People like to say that we're more up here. But more often than not, you don't get to know about these too much unless you get out. You don't really pay attention to this because you generally hate your life and they don't really talk about you, so eventually you just feel forgotten and uncared for. And when you're the police, obviously it's pretty similar to being in the military. You're hated by a lot of people, and then you're told to be extremely patriotic and blue-blooded. The blue line. So in general, it's the same bullshit over-propagandized for you and you alone. So you can hate yourself and love, I guess you could say, the few aspects that you have. The demanded respect. Anyhow. So that's the right. Now the left. You got mainstream media, which obviously I meant that along the lines of anything entertainment-wise, which I do include news. News is entertainment now. Regardless of what anyone says, it's a drama show. And therefore, it's part of soap opera. Don't care. That's the truth. Welfare. Mainstream media will go out of its way to try to make sure that welfare gets attention. Why? Because then money flows to them from someone else. And they want money to go down to these things because they get money out of it too. Same thing for education. If they put money into education, then people are going to see the left as this, the wise ones, the most intelligent, the ones that have a brain, even though they literally scoop your brain up the moment you get into these education centers. And of course, when it comes to education, I largely blame them for all these LGBTQ groups and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because ultimately, they affect that. They're the actual education system will protect people of this class and this class. What I mean by that, I mean people who are subject to needing help. You get that free card that says, hey, I'm oppressed because I require money from the government. Or this, where it's like, I'm oppressed because I'm a sexual deviant. The point is, education largely affects that. That's also why most ghetto communities, which I grew up in a ghetto community, and I realized that education was, although lacking, taxes were quite high and didn't go to where the education really was needed. So again, it just keeps the cycle going. So all this kind of comes up here. Now, blood. Blood, and I mean that literally, blood. That's why it kind of makes this I here. So I got Bohemian Grove, Jesuits, Templars, Freemasons on one side, Satanism, Unitarian Universalists, Rainbow Warriors. You can kind of get where I'm going with that one. Civil rights. I'm sorry. Let's point out the facts here. Civil rights was not brought in for goodness. Did it do good things? Yes. But you gotta understand, it was merely taking away others' rights through simple good deeds. Same thing for feminism. It broke up the family. Extenders of chains. What I mean by that is slavery. Democrats were known as the party of slavery back during and before the Civil War. All that happened was slavery of chains for a specific non-white people extended to white people. That's all that happened, in my opinion. That is what happened. So that's why I say the extenders of chains. Even though the right are responsible through Abraham Lincoln in conquering the South, which all that did was just make everything to a nice, fine hill where everyone have to fight each other for an economic standing of getting money or giving money, keeping the blood money and oil flowing. Last but not least, secret societies, CIA, military-industrial complex. These three are the main issues. If it is a secret society, it must be rooted out and destroyed. If it is the military-industrial complex, it must be rooted out and destroyed. If it is the CIA, it must be rooted out and destroyed. This is the reason why the drug problem. This is the reason why terrorism sucks and is all over the world. Mix these two together, mind you, for that. And this is why everything is the way it is. Period. This is why life sucks. These secret societies. And there's more than just the ones I've listed. Way, way more. So many because this simple thing, make sure that no one knows who's at the top, and everyone likes to think that they're the big dog. These guys like to think they're the big dog. But even the smart ones out of them know they're just another part of a bigger chain. And there's something else higher than that too. And for my fellow Christians, you kind of realize that's the high place. And who rules the high places of mankind? The mountains. Well, best question to ask is, who took Christ up to the top to see the high places and offered Christ all these things for his worship of this entity? Think on my words. God bless you all, and good luck.